Good afternoon. Welcome to today's CI Tools webinar. My name is Josh Osborne and I'm the product manager for the CI Tools here at Central Innovation. And this is a weekly webinar that we do to talk about the CI Tools. Today we're going to be having a look at the stair tool. I had a couple of requests after last week's session to have a look at the stairs. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We'll cover off a little bit of the basics of how the stairs tool works, and then we will look at some sort of tips about how to create the kind of structures you're looking for. You can probably see some on screen right now to get certain types of thing going on. So we'll get into that in a moment, but just before then, usual housekeeping things. If you have any questions about anything that we go over today, just enter those in the chat panel in either YouTube or Vimeo, wherever you're watching, and I will check in on those at the end and see if I can help with any of those on stream. Otherwise, email them through to us on nz.support@centralinnovation.com, and that will make its way through to me. Either that or the help desk person will help you with that. Also, if you have any suggestions for future webinars that you would like to see covered during this session, please send those through as well. As I say, this one is based on some requests. So if I get any others like that, I am always very keen to get suggestions from actual customers rather than making them up myself. So that would be great. Just send those through as well. I'm going to be working in ArchiCAD 28 today, but the stair tool, as you may know, has been relatively the same for the last quite a few versions. So if you're using any version that was made in the last 5 years or so, you will be able to do everything that we're going to be doing today, I would say. Yeah, I think that's all from me for now on that front. So let's get into the stair tool. So just very quickly, before we start jumping into the actual tool, what is the stair tool? First of all, you can probably guess by the name, but it's a tool for doing stairs. The actual tool that we use inside ArchiCAD, we call the poly stair tool, so you could call it that. The reason we call it the poly stair tool is because the way that you draw it works very much like how the polyline does. So that's why we called it that. As you may or may not know, Graphisoft updated the stair tool that was built into ArchiCAD a few versions ago now. I can't remember what version it was, but it was quite a while ago, making it work much more smoothly and as a sort of a single unit than it was prior to then. And since then, our stair tool has had a bit less of a advantage over the Graphisoft built-in one, simply because the new Graphisoft one is very good and it does most of what people want. However, our stair tool is favored by quite a lot of customers still who are used to how it works. And also we hear from customers that a lot of people appreciate how it is nice and relatively quick and easy to produce the kind of stairs that they're wanting to make, so they don't have to get into a lot of detail if they already know what they want and how they want it to look. So our stair tool definitely still has its place, in particular for getting something spun up relatively quickly and without a huge amount of complication to it. So that's what we'll be focusing on today, is looking at how we can get some stairs created relatively easily and quickly without having to change a lot of settings and that sort of thing. We also have because of the way the poly stair works, there are two sort of ways that you can design stairs. You can design them by clicking and moving hotspots on the actual view, or you can design them using our settings and creating runs and defining the lengths of them and that sort of thing. So we'll look at both of those types of creation method, because depending on what you're doing, you may favor one or the other, or if you're like me, and I think a lot of our customers, you will use combinations of both. So you'll draw them by eye first, and then you will go through and modify the settings of them to get them specifically exactly what they want, or for later adjustments. So we'll look at that as well. So there's plenty of reasons why you might still want to use our stair tool, even with the Graphisoft one the way that it is. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So let's get into it. So the first thing you need to do is grab the Polystair tool from your toolbox. It'll be on the bottom left of the design menu in most cases. If you don't have this here, it's not going to come up by default in ArchiCAD by itself. You do need to add it. The easiest way to do that is by going to the Options menu, Work Environment, Apply Profile, and choosing CI Tools Profile 28. That will give you that tool in there. You'll also get the railing next to it. If you don't want to do that by using our work environment, you can go into the toolbox settings here, find the place that you want to put it, and scroll down to near the bottom of the list, and you'll see the Polystair and railing are available there. Polystairs is the essential one for doing stairs. If you want to also click to apply railings onto stair edges and slabs and that sort of thing, you can also grab the railing tool as well, but definitely the Polystair is what we want. So you can add it that way as well, and you'll get this tool showing up in here. So let's move away from all of these stairs that I already placed, move over to the side. So opening up the Polystair tool, you can see we have 3 objects available here, and these just cover off the 3 sort of standard structures of stairs. So we've got a solid stair, floating stair, and stair on stringers, which you can see in the previews look like what they sound like they will look like. These are all pretty much interchangeable, as you can see from the interface as I click between them. The actual settings don't really change. It just changes the way that it's displayed and that sort of thing. So if you set up settings in one stair that you like, and then you decide that you actually want it to be on stringers or something like that, you can easily, just using the Pick Up and Inject tool, transfer the settings between them, and you'll retain the structure of your stair. So that makes it nice and easy to toggle between those if you need to. But as I say, the first thing that we're going to choose is the type of structure that we want. So I think to start with, I'll just go with a solid stair just so that you get a good view of how this thing works. I'm not going to change any settings at all to start with. I'll just hit OK, and then we'll start drawing. So as I mentioned, the way that it works is very similar to the polyline tool or any of the other tools that have poly at the beginning of them. So like the poly roof or the poly wall or anything like that. So we start by clicking, and it will start drawing this shape of the stair. You'll see a little preview of the stair placed down on our first click, and then you'll see the live preview expanding out here with my cursor. And you can see we've also got this little palette has popped up here, and you can see we have, first of all, we have a row of icons to do with the pen, and then we have another 2 icons after that to do with the stairs themselves. So at the moment we're doing a straight edge. We can switch to a curve edge. This one's starting at a tangent, which we've only done 1 click of, so we can't choose that yet. The defined vector tangent, the 3-point method, or the radius or center point method. So we can choose how we want to draw these. I'm going to stick with straight for now. And then we can also choose if we want to be drawing a flight or a landing. So whether it has treads and rises or whether it is just flat. So I'll draw my first run. I'm just going to eyeball this, so we'll draw it out to about this long. Then we're going to switch to a landing. We'll draw that a certain length, and then we'll switch back to a flight and finish up there by double clicking on the end point. And you'll see once we do that, that it places our stair. You can see that our rises are numbered here. We've got our break line showing, and we've got dashed lines showing above the break line, as you probably would expect. And if I select this one and don't draw a new one, let's select that one there, show this in 3D, you'll see that we've got exactly what we told it to do. So straight flight, straight landing, and then a straight flight. So it's nice and easy to draw up something very basic like this. We've got our solid structure that you can see underneath, and we can now go through and we can change some of the settings of how this works. We could have changed them beforehand as well, but let's have a look at those now. So just with our straight flights here, we'll go back into the settings. Now we can control how the risers work. Do we want a riser and or nosing at the top of our flight? We can control the structure here. So the total rise, the width of the stairs going up, the height of the risers, the thickness or height of the treads, and the toe spacing on each step. And then over on the right, we can control if the risers should be vertical or angled toward the front. We can control that there. We can also go in and change the way that this thing looks. So we can make the stairs themselves different. Sure, that looks fine. and that will make those changes. So you can see we've got angled fronts now. Our treads and risers have different materials, but the structure is unchanged on that one. Then we can go through to structure and we can control the structure here. So we could change this one to be short ceiling tiles. We can choose how we want the structure to be set out as well. So this is the depth underneath the structure on the flights and landings, and also the inset on the edges if you want to have one of those. Flights and landings lets us control the actual flights. We'll look into this a little bit more in a few minutes, but this is where we can define what the stair is actually made out of. So you can see this one goes flight, landing, flight, which is exactly what we told it to. And then we've got controls on the floor plan symbol, so we can choose how all of the parts of this work. So we've got the break line, the structure, the rise arrow, the rise numbers, and the rise direction will be in there as well. And we can jump into the detailed settings of those. So for the break line, we can choose how it displays, what the spacing is between the break lines and that sort of thing. The structure, we can choose how we want parts of the structure to show in our view. We've got the rise arrow. We can choose how that's going to twist up and around our stair, whether we want it to stop in between on landings or just keep going continuously, how you want the arrowheads to work and that sort of thing. Rise direction, we can get it to show whether it's going up or down depending on where you're looking at it from. So we could turn this one on and you'll be able to see that. It's too zoomed out to be able to see, but we'll see that in a moment. And then the rise in numbers, where we choose the numbering there, so we can choose them to be aligned. We can choose what we want them to start from. So if this is a stair that's, say, just a second part to an already existing run that you have, you can start from where you're up to. You can add an extra number to the top as well. We also have the option to show a head clearance plane. This is off by default, but in the model view settings, we can turn this on and you'll see in this case, a blue glass clearance plane floating above our stair so that we can see that. And then if we go into the attributes, you'll see all the attribute settings like you might expect. So I'll just hit OK there. And if I look in the ground floor, you'll see now that it says up. And if we look at this from the story above, which we can do there, you'll see that it now says down and the arrow is pointing down. So that just gives us a good indication there. So that's a pretty straightforward stair. Something that you wouldn't struggle to do in any of the various stair tools that are around, I don't think, but that is how you can get that going. So the next thing I wanted to look at is how we can create some different structures of stair. So what I'll do is, let's just delete this guy and we'll go and create another one. Grab our poly stair tool again, and we're going to go up and around this time. So we'll go straight across here. Again, I'm just going to eyeball the numbers on this one for now, but you could draw some construction lines or you can just enter the distance values as we go. Let's go out to about 3 meters. Then let's turn into a landing for our stairs are 1200 wide, so we'll just do the same here. So we'll go 1200-ish. Then we'll turn the corner and go another 1200-ish. Actually, no, we'll make the landing a little bit longer. Let's go 1400 here. Then we'll do another flight. So we switch to flight mode. Let's do 1400 up. Then we'll grab another landing. So we'll do another 1200-ish out and then 1400-ish here. And then we'll change back to a flight and finish up roughly where we started. So I'll just hold down Shift and click down on this node here to get the same point, and then click again on the end node to finish. And again, it's just as nice and simple and quick and easy to do. You don't have to worry about changing any of the settings of how individual parts of the stair work. We just draw it as we go, and we get something that does roughly what you would expect it to. So that's a sort of a up, flat, up, flat, up. There's different combinations of that you might want as well, though. So for instance, maybe we want to do the same, but we don't want to have that the flight in the middle. So we just want to go up and then turn around in a U and then go up again. We can do that too. We're just going to make the essentially the turn in the middle extremely short, but otherwise it'll be roughly the same as what we already had. So let's go along about 3 meters or so. Let's change to landing. Let's go 1200 again. here. It's about as small as I can see from where we're looking at the moment. Then we'll twist this around to here, go up to the same point, and then we'll switch back to going up. So this is a very easy way of doing just a basic U-shaped stair. Okay, so we can go up and around like that, nice and straightforward. Now, one of the things that I got a request about recently was to do this, but with a winder going around here. So let's have a look at how you can do that as well. We can do roughly the same thing as we just did, but using a winder instead. So let's start here. So staying on flights, we're going to draw the winder piece. Let's go in this direction so we can keep it nice and tight. Okay, we're going to just over 1200, and we can change those sizes later if we need to. Just over 1200 here, and turning the corner, and then we will stop very early there, and then we will go straight again, and I'll just equal it up with our beginning point. There we go. So now we've got a straight flight. We wind around the corners up to the top there, and then we go straight again. Now the thing that you might notice is that we've got what is it? Looks like about 8 treads winding around there. We might want to change that, so we can do that nice and easily as well. And this is where we get into the editing the flights and landings in the actual settings dialog. We could do this by eye as we go, by zooming in really close and that sort of thing to make sure that we're getting the turn radius we want and that sort of thing. Much easier to just do it in the settings though, so let's have a look at those. So going to the flights and landings section, the way that this works is that on the left we have flights. So this is the larger pieces, and then on the right we have legs. So a single flight can have multiple legs on it. So at the moment we've got we're editing flight 1, but we have 4 flights visible at the moment. So we have the one going up, the first half of the turn, the second half of the turn, and then the flight going up again as well. So you can see flight 1 has 1 leg. It's a single run. It's 2351.5 long, and it has no turn on it at all. Flight 2, this has 2 legs. As you may remember, we drew 2 parts. One was the short part to go along, and the second part was the at 90-degree part, which went upwards. So you can see that here. So we're 600 long, and the next leg is going to be at 90 degrees to this one. And if I click on leg 2, you'll see that the previous leg to this one was 90 degrees, which we already know, and it's also about 600 mils. So that encompasses that first turn. Then we go up to the second flight, and you can see again we have the first leg is 600-ish and 90 degrees to the next, and then 600-ish and 90 degrees from the last, and then the last flight is a straight flight again. So there's no turn, only 1 leg, and it's the length that we gave it, which is that arbitrary number. What we can do though is we wanted to modify the number of treads that we're showing on this one. So we'll go back to the first flight here, and you can see at the moment we are just below where we define whether it's a flight or a landing. We've also got this control to adjust the amount of treads that show. So the going adjust to fit flight length, that is the default setting. It will always try and fit it into what's available. We could fix the going by coming in here and saying, give me exactly this going on each tread, or we can just say, give me this number of treads. So at the moment it's set to 8. We are going to say that on this particular part, we actually want just 2. And then we'll go up to the the third flight, which is the second of the winding part, and we'll set that to also just have 2 segments. Click OK, and you'll see that our structure stays roughly the same, but now we just have 1, 2, 1, 2. So in a lot of cases, this is what you want. I tried modeling up the stairs in my house, and they essentially do this. The winder part has two to each half, if that makes any sense. I'm not quite sure what the terminology is to describe what each sort of chunk of this is, but to get it to turn like that, we just set it out that way. So the rest of the treads are not defined by what we're told it. Those are set in their own tread settings. So if I go to flight 1, that's still using going adjust to fit flight length. That's fine. It's just the ones that are on 2 and 3 that we've controlled there. So that's a good way of creating that sort of setup if you wanted to do that. Obviously, you could also make it out of a whole bunch of different single flight, then landing, then flight, then landing if you wanted to, but there's not really any reason to do that. It's much easier to just make it into 2 turns, give them 2 treads each, and then away you go. You've got it sorted. You could try and do it with using just 1 turn that did the full 180, but I find that gets a little tricky because you don't always want it to be coming back exactly onto itself. Sometimes you want to have a gap in between and that sort of thing. It's much easier, and it's much easier to draw while you're drawing the line work and floor plan. You don't want the nodes sitting all on top of each other because it gets quite fiddly there. So it's much easier to set it out as 2 flights of 90 degrees each than it is to do a single flight of 180 degrees. It is possible though. It's just, I find it much easier to work this way. So I would definitely recommend doing it as 2 90-degree turns rather than 1 180-degree turn. So that is doing another type of U-shape stair. And obviously with those tread controls, we can do whatever we want to with that. So if we wanted to make it have more, you can do as many of those as you need. So if you want it to go by 4 instead of by 2, we can do that, and we'll just get a bunch more treads squished in there as well. So you can make that work with whatever you need it to. Now, the other request that I got was, as you might have seen from my screen before, a spiral stair. This one gets a little bit more tricky because you've got to maintain the same arc size across all of the flights, but it's definitely doable. So again, we'll just go through and grab our stair that we want. I'll just reset the default settings there. And this time we're going to click to start, but instead of going with a straight edge, we're going to switch to a curved edge. And this will define, because we're going by centers, this will define essentially our radius now. So I'm going to say the radius is 140, looks fine. So we're going to go up in 180-degree segments. I find that that's probably the easiest to control. 90 degrees makes it a bit easier to draw in the first place, but it's also a little bit more difficult to handle because there will likely be quite a lot of 90-degree chunks. So 180 is pretty good amount to plug into. We could go through and again, we could enter the values for these. I'm just going to eyeball it again because we can modify these very easily after the fact. So I'll draw the first piece. Then I'll grab my 140 radius again, and we'll draw the second, and then we'll do one more half. So 180 and another, whoops, and another piece there. And then finish off by clicking there. So it looks like I did actually click on the right point each time there. So we've got 3 180-degree turns, or we should do. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Oh, we've got 2 180-degree. I backspaced 1 too many times when I clicked the last part there, unfortunately. Let me just go back and do that again. Delete that. So we'll go, what was I doing, 140. Okay, I did something wrong there. As I said, it can be quite tricky to do these spiral stairs. It's actually much easier to do these in the settings than it is to draw by hand, I find. But I'll try doing it this way first. And then I will retreat back to doing them in the settings if I still have trouble here. Let's go with 180 again, and then 180. And then we'll click back on ourselves to finish. Okay, I think I got it that time. Yeah, that looks better. So we're going up 180, 180, 180. Yeah, so we've got 3 180-degree turns. So if I have a look in the settings here, we can see how this works. So I'll go to the flights and landings part. We've got a single leg here and a single flight and a single leg, and a single flight and a single leg, which is what you would expect from this. So we just have 3 flights, each doing 180 degrees. And this is where we can fix up any of the clicks that we might have done wrong here. So you can see at the moment we've got 1480 is our length of our segment here. Which is 740 here. So the D is measuring the distance from the radius plus half of the width of our stair, because it's in the middle there. So 740, we've got our 140 plus our 600 there. And our angle, you can see, is not quite 180. So let's fix that up. So we'll fix that to 180. Let's go up to the second flight and we'll do the same. So again, we're just off from 180. So we'll fix that up. And then the third flight, we're quite off 180 there. So let's fix that one up as well. Okay, so now we have 180, 180, 180. So now we know it is definitely going all of the way around that we want it to be in our spiral shape here. So we've still got a number off there. Let's fix that up to 740. There we go. So we're seeing our 1480 as we would expect to see there. So there's our spiral stair with a 140 mil inner, whatever you call that, in a sort of well part in the middle. Obviously, it gets a little bit messy to look at here, so we'd want to adjust the break point so that we're not seeing the numbered rises above a certain point, because it's coming back on itself. But as you can see, it is relatively straightforward to do one of these. And as I said, the other way that you can do it is you can define it beforehand rather than trying to draw it by eye first and then fix it. So again, we can go in here and we can just reset that, and we can define them before the fact rather than after. So we can come through here and we can say, okay, we've got a flight of whatever we want, but let's go with 740 like we had before. $740 and 180 degrees. Let's add a new flight. It will copy the settings of the flight that we just had, and then we just go insert again, and now we have 3 flights. We click to place and we're done. Whoops. Click like that, and we're already done like that. So we've got it all ready to go. So because we predefined the numbers, we don't need to go and mess around with this one. So I find that there's a much easier way specifically of doing a spiral staircase. You can also do it for any other stairs as well. It makes it nice and easy to do if you already know sort of the maths on the sizings that you want. And we can do all of the things that we can normally do with our stairs after the fact as well. So we could go in here and we could say, could I attach a railing to this? So I need to do that in floor plan view. Let's place a railing. We'll go with a panel railing. That looks fine. Click on the outside there. And then we get our railing follows the stair up nice and easily. We can also, as I said before, change the structure pretty easily as well. So we'll just go into the settings here. We'll pick up the settings of this stair, and let's say that we want it on stringers instead. We'll inject into there, hit OK, and now we have a stringer spiral stair instead of a solid structure one. It looks like we've got stringers on the inside as well, which we don't really want. So we can just go pop back in here and we'll say, let's have a uniform placement, and we'll put them just on the right. There we go. And we get a nice sort of hollow inside and our stringers on the outside. And you can see that's where the railings are attaching to as well. And then we could just drop a round column down the middle there, or whatever it is you need to do. So you can chop and change between whatever you might need relatively easily and quickly there. So that is a sort of a rough introduction to how you can do some specific types of things with the stair tool. I hope that gives you an idea of what you can get done with it. If you do have any specific types of stairs you'd like to see done, let me know, and I can go through those next week and show you how to do some specific types of things. I'm just going to quickly check and see if we've got any questions now that I can answer. Otherwise, no, it looks like no questions at this stage. So yeah, if you do think of any other, like maybe you've got a certain structure of stair that you've tried making and you haven't been able to get it to do it, maybe it is just fighting with you on what the settings for the run length or whatever should be, or something like that, please let me know. Just email nz.support@centralinnovation.com. That will come through in either our support team or I can help you with that. But that's all I had for you today. Thanks for your time, everyone, and I hope to catch you at the next one. Thanks.